about this issue? Well, we're here because from a law enforcement perspective and from a societal perspective, if you were to think about the group of people in our communities and in our state and our country who are least able to protect themselves from the predatory behaviors that go on in human trafficking cases, this is the group of people that we should be most willing and most prepared to help. Because the people we're talking about in these cases are young people. They're people in many cases that don't speak our language. They're people that have come from other countries and have left their families. They're people from our country who feel that they've been abandoned by their own families. They lack the support. They lack the resources, and in many cases they lack the sophistication to protect themselves from the false promises and horrible behavior of the people that lure them in. And as a law enforcement community, if we don't stand up and do something for them, they don't have anything else left. And I think the turnout today and the enthusiasm of all of the groups that are here today and the support from all the groups that are here today tell us that New Jersey is a place that understands that, and New Jersey is a place where we're going to take the steps that we have to and dedicate the resources that we have to combat what is an awful, awful crime. So what have we done since I got into office last January? And actually this is one of the first official events I had the chance to come to last year. Well, we've dedicated resources to combat these cases. We signed a directive. I signed a directive in July so that all the county prosecutors' offices, all 21 county prosecutors' offices in the state are now allocating resources to these cases. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One, it's just good to know that it's good for the people that live in the state to know that all of our law enforcement community is involved with both feet on this issue. And it's also important because we need to educate ourselves on how to identify these cases, because in many instances, these cases will look like one thing and maybe another thing. And here's what I mean by that. We all know what the crime of prostitution is. And we all know that there are situations that adults consensually get involved in that illegal activity in order to make money. We also know that there are instances where people are lured in under false promises and are threatened with physical harm and other types of harm if they don't forcibly engage in those behaviors. And so when we come across those kinds of criminal activities, we have to ask ourselves additional questions. And part of what my directive is doing is ensuring that law enforcement at all levels, the law enforcement officers who come upon those scenes, the county prosecutors' offices, and ultimately the Division of Criminal Justice within my department, are all working together to talk to each other about identifying whether or not this is simply what it seems to be, a traditional criminal case, or is there something else going on? And it's not only in the prostitution setting. We have situations, and we've prosecuted situations in this state, where young people have been forced to work in what is an otherwise illegal enterprise under the threat of physical harm. They're not paid, they don't have family members here, and they're told, if you tell anybody, you don't do exactly what we say, and we'll take you in that back room and we'll beat you. And if you're 14 years old and you don't speak this language and your parents aren't there to call, you have nowhere else to go. And so, from our perspective and from the division's perspective and the department's perspective, this is what we have to do. We have to make sure that we're all talking about it, and we have to make sure that we're educating ourselves as part of this process. So in addition to allocating the resources, we're going to have, we've begun this already, training sessions, so that our law enforcement personnel are attuned to the type of things they should be looking for when they come upon these criminal situations. They ask the right questions, and they communicate it up through the chain so that we all know what's out there. Now, I can say to you already, since we've done this, we have a pending case in Atlantic City. That involved a man who was drugging young boys to engage in forcing them to engage in sexual behavior. That's the allegation in that case. That case has been charged. That case will be prosecuted aggressively. And we need to do that to send a message to both those boys that were victimized and to anybody else who thinks this might be a good idea in New Jersey. You're going to be punished and you're going to pay a serious price if you prey on these young people and you force them to engage in this kind of behavior. I can't share with you any specifics, but I also can tell you very happily that I met with Director Taylor and my staff yesterday, and we have a number of other active investigations going on right now targeting these cases. And that's the result of the stand-up unit we have now within the department, a human trafficking unit that's going to focus on these cases and make sure that we bring these people to justice. Now, I said to you last year was my first chance to address anybody, quite frankly, as the Attorney General. One of the great things that came out of that for me personally was getting a chance to meet Mr. Papa, where are you, Mr. Papa, and the Jefferson Middle School students who have taken this issue by the horns in an incredibly inspiring way. And I'm not going to step on their comments. I just want to tell you how proud I am of the work that they're doing. It's called Project Stay Golden. You're going to hear a little bit about it. And it's young people who are going to talk to you about why they think this issue is so important. And I think one of the reasons that they think this issue is so important is because they can relate to the ages of the victims in the cases that we're talking about. You know, I met these young men over here are sophomores and seniors in high school, and they know that there are people younger than them who are enslaved right now in these situations. Right now as we speak. And it's so important to them, and it's so important to Mr. Papa and the other educators at the Jefferson schools, and it's not just the middle school, it's the high school as well, that they've organized this incredible Project Stay Gold, and they continue to do great work on it. Next week, January 18th, they're having an awareness event that I guess they'll talk to you about. I've had a chance to meet with them at their school, and I've also had a chance to meet with them at my office. I'm going to do that again with them this year because the work they're doing really is inspiring. And it reminds me how important it is, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in the state, to stay on top of this issue. I have an 11-year-old daughter, I have a 14-year-old son. And I know that they're right in that age now where they can be targeted by all kinds of predators that are around our state. But in particular, this kind of predator that wants to profit off of them in both illegal and in ways that may not necessarily be illegal on the face, but illegal because they're forcing them to engage in that behavior. So my commitment on all this is just to continue what we're doing. My job is to make cases on these kinds of issues. We can talk about it, and we will talk about it. We're going to outreach and we're going to train. But ultimately, the people have to know that when you do this, you're going to jail. You're going to jail for a very long time. Because, as I said earlier, the people that are victimized in these cases don't have any other voice. Thankfully, I think this room is even fuller than it was last year. There are a lot of loud voices in this room. I see a lot of leaders here from the legislature, from law enforcement. And that's great, because this is a really important issue. And it's one that will continue to take a lot of my time as I continue to pursue these cases aggressively with the Division of Criminal Justice. It will continue to take, I see some of the county prosecutors out there, and those are going to continue to take up their time because they know how important these cases are. And ultimately, we're going to be judged by when we bring these cases in. And the Atlantic City case is a good start for us. It's a very good start for us. We're going to continue to do these cases. We'll continue to make sure that our law enforcement people are in the best position they can be to identify the cases and to make sure they're communicating that information to me and to Director Taylor so that we can use all of our resources, a combination of all of our efforts and skills to bring these people to justice. So thank you to the Jefferson School students for being here today and continuing to inspire us on all these issues. And thanks to all of you for being here as well. This issue will remain a priority for me for as long as I'm lucky enough to have this job. And I'm very pleased to have the incredible support that we obviously have here in this room today. So thanks for being here.